we're back with another hot take on another Asal situation, controversial situation, this time at the Houston Open, where he was playing Marwan, and he was up 2-0. He was down 10-4 in the third game, and there was an incident where they collided, and Marwan was injured and subsequently could not continue. And a lot to unpack here, so let's take a look at the video first, and then we can start looking at what exactly happened and why it happened, and was it dealt with correctly. So I'm going to play the recording first. It's about 3 minutes, and then we can start taking a look at it.
Trainer to the front.
Well, Marwan El-Shorbagy seems to be in some quite sizable amounts of pain here. There was some substantial contact around that middle of the court. Well, just we see Mustafa Asal's racket colliding with some very uncomfortable area of Marwan El-Shorbagy's body. And a very unfortunate situation here, and El-Shorbagy
All right, the decision is
in
a stroke to Shorbagy.
a tremendous amount of pain.
Shorbagy 11-4, and we'll deal with the injury right
And
now, which is a contributed injury, and we're going to see the time that he needs.
So we have an injury break for a contributed injury for Marwan El-Shorbagy. So he has the time he needs to address this situation and try and recover. We see they've brought a chair on court for him to just be in a slightly more comfortable position and really assess what's going on. He still is in tremendous amounts of pain, hunched over there.
There's been debate over the ability of how this match was continue and how it was ended, so we'll be very clear. The game ended because of an injury, or they ended on the stroke, so the game was over. A contributed injury break was allowed, where you're allowed 15 minutes. Then if they can't continue, you're allowed another 15 minutes. In the back, I had, my concern is basically 100% for the player. Marwan was recovering, we called for medical attention. It was my decision to end the match. That match is on me. Marwan believes that he is able to continue. It was my decision for him not to continue, and I will live with that decision. So the match is awarded to Asal based on that. Where the other players are warming up, and they'll come through and they'll be on the court within 10 to 15 minutes to do that. So Marwan is okay, he's recovering. True to his spirit and competitive play, he wants to come on the court. It was my decision to overrule that, and we're going to continue play with the next match. All right?
So there you have it. You can see the referee, Sheldon Anderson, decided to call the match and awarded the match to Asal. So he ended up winning it on basically a default, and that actually put him to world number 1, which is also another interesting wrinkle of this. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's just take a look at the actual swing and whether or not it's really excessive. Marwan hits a bad shot there. It's coming in. He's in a good spot. Asal's in a good spot. He's going to hit it down the left wall, and he's gonna block him out a little bit. But I don't think it's egregious of what he's doing. Let's take a look at it there. Obviously, he comes back. I think he hits him with the butt of the racket on that follow through, and my first reaction there, seeing that, is that that's a no let. Honestly, it's not a stroke. I don't think Asal has he hasn't done anything dangerous there. It's unfortunate what's happened. But I don't think you could say that other players don't do that routinely, Marwan included. So going into there, initially it sort of reminds me a little bit of a soccer match. Someone gets a knock on their leg and they go down pretty hard. Not to say that Marwan didn't get hit there and wasn't in a lot of pain, but just watching it in real time, I was sort of like, ooh, that's pretty dramatic. Like, I've been hit a lot of times in my life in various sports, and I don't know if I've ever gone down like that in that much agony, having sustained pretty bad injuries over the years. So it's a little bit like initially I'm a little bit just put off by the situation.
Well, Marwan El-Shorbagy seems to be in.
So the you can see, we'll see here a better angle of the actual contact.
With some.
Go back just a little bit from this angle, this overhead
As
angle.
we see.
So Asal's there. He's going to strike the ball down the wall. He hits a quality shot. He's now he's finishing his swing. He should be allowed to finish his swing, and it's just a question of how excessive is his step off into the path of Marwan. He's trying to block him out a little bit. That's obvious, but I don't know if it's egregious, and I also don't think it's necessarily malicious. He's not trying to take Marwan out here.
Mustafa Asal's
he hits a good shot. I mean, you can see second bounce is right there. So he hits a really quality shot. So the only way this, in my mind, can be a stroke is if the referee is saying, "Hey, that was dangerous. That was excessive." The quality of shot is good.
Back at colliding with some.
So what's interesting about that, in my mind, is if the quality of shot was good and it was deemed to be a stroke against Asal because it's excessive and it's dangerous, then if Marwan is injured, then shouldn't Marwan win the match and not Asal? Whereas if it's a bad shot and it's a stroke just because it's a stroke, then it would be Marwan would win the game, but would then have to continue play. So that's where it gets a little bit interesting. Obviously, they go to a break. Marwan, is pretty hunched over there. I mean, that's a pretty incredible position that he's able to actually just be like sitting there like that. That's, but continuing on, we get to what Sheldon says, which seems very also interesting.
Very clear. The game ended because of an injury, or they ended on the stroke, so the game was over.
So he says it ended on a stroke, but it doesn't really clarify whether it was a conduct stroke or if it was just a stroke because it was a bad shot. If he called a stroke for a bad shot, that seems pretty bizarre.
A contributed injury break was allowed, where you're allowed 15 minutes. Then if they can't continue, you're allowed another 15 minutes.
So he says contributed injury. Contributed injury means kind of like two players run into each other. Nobody's really at fault, but it wasn't a self-inflicted injury. He didn't stumble or both players kind of were involved in the injury. But it doesn't necessarily that doesn't involve guilt of somebody doing something dangerous or just outrageous.
In the back, I had my concern is basically 100% for the player. Marwan was recovering. We called for medical attention. It was my decision to end the match. That match is on me. Marwan believes that he is able to continue. It was my decision for him not to continue, and I will.
So this is where it just feels really weird. I mean, they have medics there. You know, if Marwan is saying he's healthy within that time period, that 30-minute, 15 minutes and another 15 minutes, if Marwan's good to go, and a doctor is not telling you like, hey, you can't go, or there's some sort of head injury, something that really could be medically severely dangerous. I don't know why Sheldon would have any ability to say, no, I don't think you're fit to play. So it'd be interesting to know what's going on behind the scenes there, why Sheldon is saying that, or came to that decision. Marwan has been pretty quiet about this, although he did put out a comment saying that it wasn't the referee. He didn't agree with how the referee described the situation. So that makes me, I don't know, interested, curious. I don't know what we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes there, but it seems like the PSA has been very quiet about this, and the players are also being pretty quiet about this. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and I'll put out another video because it gets a little bit even more bizarre. But this was in Houston, middle of January, and they're meant to play at TOC, which is happening now, and in the quarters if they both make it that far, and then Asal in his second round match ends up withdrawing after the first game, and he would have played Marwan in the quarterfinals, which would have been a match that I really would have loved to see. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I don't know what else to say in terms of, I don't think we have all the information, and I'm curious what's going to come out of this. Probably maybe won't get more information, at least officially, but I've heard a few rumblings and sent a few texts to some people for some inside information, and everybody's been pretty quiet about it right now. So it's interesting. So anyway, let me know if you agree or disagree. Thanks.